is Uncle Manifesto, the leading world expert on Manifesto as literary form. Today, the Unabomber's Manifesto. That's right, industrial society and its future. Hugh Campbell Scruton had a gentle sense of humor which he inherited from his mother, Bessie. He was a mountain climber, which he got from his father, Hugh Sr. With a mountain climber's grit, starting in the years just before his cohort waded into the orange murk and blood-dappled jungles of Vietnam, he had devoted himself to cultivating a full, handsome mustache. You grow a mustache like that? It lets you tell yourself, maybe it was all worth it. After the war, he found the girl who loved him enough to learn to love the prickle of his upper lip. So he found the courage to gamble on opening a computer store in Sacramento, California, which did as well as any of us can ever hope for. Well enough. On December 11th, 1985, Hugh Campbell Scruton was murdered by a nemesis whose name he did not know. Ted Kaczynski was a child math prodigy turned survivalist turned one-man anarcho-primitivist terror cell. Bending to pick up what looked like an odd bit of trash from the parking lot outside of his store, Hugh detonated one of Ted's homemade nail bombs. It's not clear what Ted felt about this, if anything. In his manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future, Ted talks about the pity he had for children whose parents hammered them into the mangled, rot silicon form of the mid-80s computer nerd. Maybe he figured he was putting Scruton out of his misery. I don't know. I hate murderers. I was ready to hate this manifesto. I'd expected it would fall under the genre of screed, raving, or caterwaul. I could not have been more wrong. Here's the TLDR. The manifesto starts and ends with a critique of modern leftism. This critique is funny and historically fascinating, as current anti-woke thought is startlingly faithful to the word of Ted. However, this critique is almost totally tangential to Ted's real aim. Ted's real aim is to get you to recognize the facts of your own psychology. He thinks we're all driven by the power process. Everyone needs to have goals whose attainment requires effort, and needs to succeed in attaining at least some of his goals. And it's essential that these goals be real goals. To tell the difference between a real goal and an artificial or surrogate goal, Ted gives us this test. Given a person who devotes much time and energy to the pursuit of goal X, ask yourself this. If he had to devote most of this time and energy to satisfying his biological needs, and if that effort required him to use his physical and mental faculties in a varied and interesting way, would he feel seriously deprived because he did not attain goal X? If the answer is no, then the goal is artificial, and the pursuit of that goal is a mere surrogate activity, a paltry stand-in for the real stuff of life. Ted thinks that everyone, CEOs, civil rights activists, chess players, and especially Emperor Hirohito of Japan, we're all trapped playing totally artificial games which, if we'd lucked into living as hunter-gatherers, we would not miss one bit. To put it simply, Ted's view of our psychology is that taking meaningful actions to secure survival imbues your survival with meaning. That's what gives you the kind of fulfillment that makes it worth sticking around. And that's what we are not getting under industrial society. Under industrial society, which began to emerge in the 19th century and has intensified ever since, our increasing access to luxuries has meant that we've become increasingly disconnected from the effort to survive. The power process has become misdirected. We single-mindedly pursue artificial goals like money, social status, social justice, scientific insight, spiritual revelation, artistic self-expression, the aimless joys of mere play. Our attachment to surrogate activities slowly, insidiously drains us of an existentially nurturing fire, which can only be fed by the hard labor of feeding and watering and sheltering your body from wild nature which seeks to destroy it. The less you see yourself as the greatest and most cunning great ape, the more your life becomes a surrogate life, an alien life. You find yourself imitating people who are imitating people who have no fucking clue what it means to have a human heart. You become racked by an existential anxiety that can only be cured by doing violence to yourself. or the entire world. And technology makes all of this much, much worse. Where we once rode the elephant is now riding us. The world is being swallowed by a widening spiral of highly technologized industry, a center of ever-concentrating material power and social control. Technological progress marches only in one direction. It can never be reversed. Once a technology is available, society has every incentive to adopt it. And once adopted, to depend upon it. And once dependent, to intensify it. He says, and never forget the human race with technology is just like an alcoholic with a barrel of wine. There's only so much wine you can drink in one life, and it will never be enough to save you from the bottom of the glass. The systems within systems of technocentric infrastructure have evolved to reward us for throwing our children into their mechanical jaws. We train our technical capacity, we beat every bright child into a shiny, copper-smiled engineer, we identify wholly with whatever surrogate activity will nourish the rough, cybernetic beast that is now slouching towards Bethlehem to be born. If you can't be made into an engineer, you will be made into a disciplined cog with no consciousness of your place within the eusocial cyborg world organism whose umbilical cord has been tied around your throat. Industry is at war with consciousness, and in the end, consciousness will lose. The masses will use technology to erase their consciousness altogether if it means erasing their consciousness of their own poisonous angst. This process has already started with mass entertainment, but it will culminate with neuro-bioengineering. Between TikTok and next-gen brain-computer interfaces, the spiral will tighten until you, like our beloved Sleepy Joe, have forgotten that you are alive. The only way out is destroy the entire apparatus, one computer salesman at a time. Maybe that does sound a bit like a screed when you say it all at once, but Ted sells it as something that a lonely codger in an antique store might have rambled to me for hours straight on a summer day when I was a teenager, slinging brass doorknobs in Fenland Falls. A terrible listener, but surprisingly sharp. Ted's prophecy has become even more frightening than he predicted. The algorithmic control of attention gives the system a previously unimaginable level of power to pervert our consciousness. The AI revolution is a revolution of the dead. A dead internet, dead economy,
my son! Please, my son, I must have a word.
Oh, Papa Teo. I didn't know you were back from the Vatican.
I cut my visit short. Francis ran out of fiber supplements. Listen to me now. These surrogate activities, altruism, play, artistic creation, spiritual practice. He says these are not real goals because if we were consumed by the effort to survive, we would quickly forget them. Ted has anxiety that these signs of abundance, of plenty, of dumb luck, for that is what these activities are, he believes they cannot possibly be what matters. Existentialist theologian Paul Tillich called this the anxiety of fate. To recognize that what you care about, your art, your work, was given to you by chance, by mere fortune, that it is not connected to anything essential in you, not your absolute destiny. This makes you conscious that nothing about your experience is essential. From the standpoint of the universe, you are unnecessary. This gap between fate and fortune is a horror. Kaczynski wants you to believe that if your only pursuit is life itself, now that is not a matter of chance. It is a precondition for your existence. By the power process, I assert my necessity. This is what he says. He shakes his fist. But Ted did not read Ecclesiastes. It's vanity. All vanity, infantile futility. There is no escaping chance.
Okay, Papa Teo, don't you think it's time we got you to bed? Okay. Sorry about that. He gets like that sometimes, late in the day. Where was I? Ted was yelling at clouds, and the clouds are indeed coming for us. Though, realistically, there may not be a single passage which reads like he's raising his voice, with the exception of his charming odes of leftists. He says, the leftist is antagonistic to the concept of competition, because, deep inside, he feels like a loser. Of course, this isn't true. I'm not a loser. I'm not. Ted is a loser. I'm not a loser. When he's not being charming, Ted wallows in the mannerisms of the very academics he disdains, dressing up in garments of intellectual humility, lining up caveat after neat caveat. And this style is not just a reflection of his obsessive personality. It is a very deliberate tactic. The ideology should address itself to people who are intelligent, thoughtful, and rational. It is particularly important to attract people of this type, as they are capable people and will be instrumental in influencing others. These people should be addressed on as rational a level as possible. Facts should never intentionally be distorted, and intemperate language should be avoided. Care should be taken to avoid misrepresenting the truth or doing anything else that would destroy the intellectual respectability of the ideology. In any other manifesto, he would lose marks for his stubbornly apathetic prose. But his approach to manifesto as a literary form is unique. He's doing everything he can to win the game of respectability in spite of everything that he has done in real life in the name of his manifesto. All right, let's talk about whether this thing is worth reading. At first, Ted's little affectations just cracked me up. When he would say, this is an important point, but demonstrating it is beyond the scope of this essay. That'd get a Mona Lisa smile. There's something darkly funny about a male bomber being so whipped by academia. But gradually, I felt Ted's tricks working on me. He's silly but insidious. He makes point by incremental point, step by intuitive step, and suddenly you're nodding along to the words of the man who murdered Hugh Campbell Scruton. It is sensitive and detailed enough to force you to really struggle, if you disagree, to explain why you disagree. If you go straight to ChatGPT, you will miss out on the experience of being walked down this garden path, of chewing on an info hazard, being corrupted. Straight to ChatGPT, you will be tempted to dismiss Ted on the basis of labels, lumping him in with the anti-wokes, the anarcho-primitivists, the crazies. But if you dismiss him like this, you're missing out on the chance to either have a truly constructive disagreement or to find your true life mission. I give it a solid 8. Like, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to send your uncle a little something something. No mail bombs, please. Please, 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 please. I'm still picking those little fuckers out of my ass the last time someone sent me a nail bomb.